Hi, hello, and welcome back to a podcast where I talk about going from corporate run to corporate dropout and everything in between. You know it, you love it. Welcome back to Chaos and Fuckery. And as you might be able to tell, you might not, I have a kitty with me. She is my needy baby, and she often lives in my lap, especially if I leave my office door open. She is, well, I call her Chonkachu. Her name is Gizzy. And this is just the future of my content at this point, where she lives in my lap and is a sweet baby. But she is also a very needy baby. She is the type of cat that will headbutt you if you do not pay enough attention to her. If I stop petting her right now, she would start ramming her head into my arm until I pet her again. She knows what she wants, I guess, and she will demand it of you. I have also put my can over here in can jail. Why? Because I spilt my drink twice recording episodes last week, and I refuse to do it again because it's a pain to clean up, and then it just gets everywhere, and I have like a leather... It's a pain, so because I'm clumsy, the can goes in can jail. And you might be thinking, why don't you just record without a drink, or why don't you, like, just get a water bottle and drink water? Well, I have that, and I spill it just as often. It is not unique to cans. I am just clumsy. But I went into recording this week not really knowing what I wanted to talk about, to be honest, because the world is pretty heavy right now. After the events of last week, which... You know, the downside to pre-recording things is you can't really react to things live and in person. And with the events of last week, and there were many, I had a moment, specifically with my family, where I almost turned the fuck it button on and burned every bridge and every connection with my family humanly possible. I have been struggling a lot since I've always kind of been the black sheep, for those who don't know, and me trying to start a business and get away from traditional corporate 9-to-5 style life, the stability of that kind of life, me wanting to go on the road and be in an RV, me being married to a blue collar guy, me having, you know, questionable morals and not being a part of some sort of religious structure is weird to them. And I am definitely a black sheep on both sides of my family. I cut my dad's side of the family off long ago. And I held on to my mom's partially because I'm an only child. I don't have siblings I can relate to. My father doesn't live in this country, and me and my mom have always had a very rocky, very, very rocky relationship. And it's heading to a dark place again. And I said in a previous episode I wanted to talk about my familial relationships because they say it takes a village to raise a kid, but it also takes a village to build a business. Doing this alone is not easy. And by alone, I really just mean I don't have a lot of people that support. I have families, like not families. I have family that interacts with me, but they kind of just laugh when I share awesome moments in my business, or they tell me not to quit my day job, or they, you know, I don't know. They come up with every reason to not support me, but then go and look at my family, or my cousins, sorry, not my family. And, you know, one of my cousins was trying to open a chain of plasma centers, and they applauded him for doing that. Realistically speaking, he's still in school, and he wouldn't be the one running it anyways. My business, I'm running. It's me. It's me, myself, and I for right now, but it is me. I'm the one running it. I didn't just come up with an idea and let 5 other people run with it. And that's not to hate on him, but, you know, it sucks when you're finally starting to see success and starting to build this thing that you want and have all the motivation in the world to watch your family turn around and go, we applaud this guy, but fuck you. And I have been really struggling with that. And some of it is turning 30, right? Some of it is reevaluating my life and my relationships and, you know, who do I have time for? Who am I willing to put time into? Because at the end of the day, we're all busy as fuck. The world is crazy as fuck. And you have to really want to put time into certain individuals for the relationships to flourish and actually be worth maintaining. You have to go out of your way to maintain relationships, whether it be familial or friends or things like that. In today's day and age where everyone's out for themselves and, you know, it's hustle culture nonstop 24/7. Time is so precious when in general, time is precious right now for just everyone because a lot of people are having to hustle to even pay their bills. Thankfully, that's not me. I'm hustling because I want to, but my husband's hustling, I'm hustling. Our time together is limited as it is. I wouldn't want to add, the extra layer of people that I don't really enjoy being a crutch or something that I forced interaction, right? And that's where some of the evaluation of my family came in is if you were just my friend, would I still talk to you? If you were anything less than family, would I put up with the things that I put up with you? And the reality is for a large majority of my family, the answer is no. And I put my mom's side of the family up on a pedestal for a really long time, and I never really evaluated them with the same granularity that I did my dad's. And I think that's partially because, like I said, I didn't want to be family. I didn't want to be no contact with just about everybody. But different people have different reasons for being no contact or limited contact. And I think my relationship with my mom's family is better described as limited contact. Even now, before I made an active decision to really step down how I felt about them. But this has been weighing on me, right? This kind of never-ending evaluation of my family and are they worth it? Is it my time to kind of just step back? Is my mom going down a spiral again? You are the oldest daughter, this only child in certain family structures, and you grow up in a family that claims and looks like they're really tight-knit. Not only is it hard for your spouse to enter that dynamic, but it's also hard to get out of that dynamic without just cutting the tie entirely. I want to be limited contact because there are people in my family that are good people and have put in the effort. But the problem is it's almost impossible to interact with those people that are worth the effort and not with the people that aren't. My family is very much so one of those blood is thicker than water kind of families. And I am at a point where I'd rather not communicate with any of them than have to deal with the ones that have ran around calling me a drunk for the better half of 3 years. But probably even longer than that at this point. Ran around calling my husband a drunk. Ran around judging my husband for his career and vehicle choices. Have judged me for having premarital sex, for crying out loud. And actively jabbed me for that. Have tried to ruin my fucking wedding. I have put up with too much with these people. And it is weird to kind of be building this super successful life that I could actually help a few of them out and, hire them under my business if I wanted to create something bigger than just a solopreneur vibe. But now I don't want to. And that is the irony, is most of my family is in the health and fitness space, whether they be in healthcare or nutrition. There is another nutritionist, dietitian, I'm not really sure what she is, in the family. Mental health. A lot of my family could be involved in this empire I'm building, and they could do it from wherever they want to. But A, I don't trust them, and B, I don't want my entire existence to be judged. I wish that my family could see my success as something other than just a hobby. I wish my family could see me as something other than who I was at 19, 20 years old. But they seem to be incapable of that. And I refuse to let their opinions that are just provably false at this point change my ability to be successful within this year. Because it's freaking September. My 30th birthday is in 2 weeks. And I am not where I wanted to be by this point when I started this podcast, when I really started pushing all of the things. And some of that is due to dynamics with my husband. Some of that is due to my own, mental health. But I have to find ways to keep getting through these issues. And some of that is going to be cutting people out of my life. And that is unfortunate, but it's not unrealistic. I would rather, and I said this to my cousin the other day, I would rather protect my marriage and protect my relationship with my husband than protect my family. When They love to claim that they're these welcoming people and everyone's welcome in the family, but they've actively made it clear that my own father is no longer welcome. But the funny thing about that is, the person that was in most of their kids' lives for a large majority of their lives, maybe not frequently, but he was their uncle, is now no longer welcome, but a known sexual assaulter is. Let that sink in. There was a lot of deep, dark secrets in my family. And as I got older, I learned a lot of those secrets, and I didn't like them. I wouldn't support them. I have openly stated that had I been put in the position where I was around one of my family members during a certain part of his relationship that would have warranted calling the cops, I would have. Had I known during, I would have called the cops. I would have been the one to whistleblow on my own family. I have hard lines in the sand, and they clearly don't. And when you're building a business, all that extra weight, and this isn't, I really wanted to just talk, right? Talk about my family relationship dynamic, but as I'm continuing to, still talk about going from corporate drone to corporate dropout, they were a part of it. They have made, I was joking, I'm not proud of this piece of content by any stretch of the imagination, but I went semi-viral, and it was like at 100,000 views, 80 to 100,000 views, something like that, which is crazy for me, who's a nobody. And I was sending it around. I was like, holy shit, this is wild. And my mom just laughed at me. She thought it was hilarious that my post was going viral. I was like, what is funny about this? Like, it's kind of terrifying to go that viral and get non-stop notifications. I don't know how people who go viral all the time do it. I just don't get it. I would go insane. I would never be able to see comments ever. But that being said, why is my family just laughing? Why? And it was the same thing when I started cosplay. Yeah, my husband's allowed to make fun of me when he comes home and I'm still in clown makeup. It looks a little bit ridiculous. Absolutely. Or what if I'm like working on I don't wear makeup normally. Like, my husband's allowed to make fun of me because he came home to something crazy. I look crazy. But, the snickers and the judgments of, are you still doing that, crazy thing? Cosplay is a fun hobby. Going to cons is fun. It's how I connect with people who are like me. My cousin's kid is obsessed with Pokemon, and she snubbed me when I tried to kind of help her understand, this thing that her kid is very deeply into, because I am a giant Pokemon nerd. And that's just on my desk. That's not including, all the things behind me and the cards. And I was trying to help her understand her kid a little bit and understand, what Pokemon is he into, so that I could help, get him some card packs or stuff like plushies. But I just got blown off. I tried to be involved in my family and get them interested, and they don't have to be deeply interested and hyper focus on these things like I do. They don't have to, but I did try to at least get them interested. But they were more willing to buy from an MLM than actually listen to real actual fitness advice, which is insane. Absolutely insane. And that's my life. I am building this crazy empire, and it is doing, I'm actually committed to it, and I'm doing well, and I'm recording YouTube, and I'm actually committed to doing it. And my YouTube, I just put out a new video, and I'm starting to find series that are working and getting pretty consistent higher level views and new subscribers, and the shorts that pair with those videos are doing well. My new kind of strategy is amazing, and I'm about to do this whole week of launches thing for my birthday. And even though I have free stuff, and I would absolutely, certain people in my family, I would coach for free. But no, they would rather go to Optavia, which is insane. And the fact that there's another nutrition focused person in the family and she's not yelling at them makes me question her degree. But that's here nor there. That's not really my place, I guess. It's just sad, I guess. I never wanted to be the total black sheep that I never thought I would be. There's so much of, heading into the holidays, there's so much of my tradition and love for the holidays that came from that side of the family. My need to go see the Grinch at Universal Studios every year is because of my grandmother having a Grinch tree in her house for as long as I can remember. And it was the grandkids on Black Friday. We went and all put it up, and it was versus, I didn't have that memory with my mom. My mom was so obsessed with perfection that I didn't get to enjoy putting up Christmas trees. And that was part of the reason I loved creating fun and crazy ones, and I loved decorating. Is despite my husband's, protest of the weird things, when I covered my house in spider webs. I love that because it's all the things that I didn't get to do with my mom, but I heard stories of with my grandma. And, something as dumb as cinnamon rolls. All of my cousins got to be a part of this cinnamon roll tradition. But my mom hated baking so much that she couldn't even do it once a year. And now it's like my responsibility as an adult to bake them for everybody, which I don't mind. I love baking. But I missed out on a lot of, the traditions and fun things that my cousins didn't because I was here and they were there. But to know that I've pretty much never been welcome in my family because of my mom and because of now who I am, who is even more outspoken than my mom, it hurts. It stings. And to know that, it's likely they'll never get to actually see my real success. I mean, my dad's family already has never met my husband. My mom's family have at least met him. But going into 8 years with my husband, and there's still people who are related to me that have never met him. And I could sit at an entire family event and large chunks of my family don't say a single word to me. Prove to me that I'm not welcome in my own family, and neither is my husband. Hello, kitten. It's hard to realize and not be blind. I have been telling my husband that this year my rose-colored glasses came off. I have been tinting my view on my family because I wanted them to be there at my success. But now it's just me and my husband. And I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with that, but it still sucks. And reconnecting with my dad has made it even worse in a way because he's not here. I don't even have the option to, go to my dad's instead of my mom's for once. Because I have to fly 24 hours to even, see him. And I would love to see him, especially lately. That's not realistic financially or, physically, with my animals and everything else. And he doesn't come here very often, and definitely not for the holidays. It is a weird thought that after this year, because I have some obligations, well, really after Thanksgiving, won't be participating in my family anymore. I am adult enough to keep to my commitments that I've made, but anything past that I'm done. It is not great. And, people are talking about, during the election season, people are talking about, cutting off their family over their views and their politics. I wish my issues with my family stopped there. I genuinely wish that, the hyper-religious fundy religion my family is a part of that is borderline occult, I wish it stopped there, but it doesn't. If it stopped there, I probably could put up with the asking for prayer and scriptures occasionally being spewed in family group chats. Because you have your right to your own religion. But it's on top of hateful rhetoric that comes from their fundy religion, it's also the lack of consequences when family members are not good people. I know that I will never be able to fully address and let go, for lack of a better way of putting it, of the absolute hate train that has been put out against me and my husband. Because my family doesn't like being confronted. They will act like none of the things that they have said are real and true, and then blame whoever leaked the secret. And I don't want to deal with that. It's not worth my time and effort. I don't know. I sound like a broken record at this point. They just keep repeating how they're not bad people. They're just not people I want in my life. There are a few, which is why I said limited contact, that I will keep, individual relationships with, so long as they continue to respect me and my life and what I want to do. But at the end of the day, I'm not an orphan, but it feels like it because I'm losing my last connection to my family. And if I did decide to have kids, once, we hit all of our goals, I don't think I would let them be involved. And that's gonna suck because my husband doesn't really have much family either. So my kids are gonna be, raised in a bubble because they definitely won't have cousins like I did. And I don't trust my aunts and uncles because they won't have that really either. My husband has a sister, but not one that he regularly talks to and is close with. So they won't have aunts and uncles. They won't have cousins. So what's really the point? This kid would literally be raised in a bubble where, their grandparents may be involved, but my dad likely won't be. My mom will depend on if she can change, and his family, well, they'll probably be involved. I have no problem with his family. They've been nothing but awesome. It's just we don't talk to them very often, so it wouldn't be the same as if my family were allowed to be involved. But I think that's also part of the problem, is my family would not respect any boundary I set ever when it came to my kids. And I can't have that either. But this episode really made no sense in the grand scheme of business. But it is what is impacting my ability to kind of grow and create things. Is for a very long time, when I first started becoming a content creator and I was on platforms that my family was on, I couldn't be honest about my opinions. I couldn't be honest, about things in the fitness space, about my opinions of them, my opinions, because they stalked my social media. And while there are some family members that only connected with me through those platforms, and it's unfortunate, getting off of Facebook and Instagram, where my family had no idea what my content was anymore, was the best decision I ever made. It was very freeing to get on YouTube and and TikTok and know that I could do things like this, where I talk about how I'm exiting stage left on my own family without fearing their commentary or even my mom's. Before my family found my social media, it was a much better place. And that's why I got on platforms I knew they weren't on. So it is freeing for my business in a way to be free of them, because the mental load isn't there anymore. The stress of policing people's opinions isn't there anymore, because I just don't care. I just exit out of the family group chat. I don't care anymore. And it is very freeing. It's unfortunate that it took me this long to realize my husband was right when he had been telling me that my family was likely talking shit about us and, specifically him, but it turns out it was both of us. The worst part is I had experience with my family talking shit about me before I married him. So I don't know why I would have thought, it's going to be any different. We had also experienced them talking shit about other people's spouses. I had experienced it with my dad. We'd watched it with some of the ex-spouses. So I don't know why I needed to fly, as he put it, why I needed to fly all the way to Hawaii to prove to myself that my family is a bunch of shitheads. But I did, and now I regret it. And I am still without my family. Yeah. I don't know. Family dynamics are a difficult one, and I don't have solutions, obviously, because mine's a mess. I have decided to, black sheep, no contact, a majority of my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, because I refuse to let their religious beliefs dictate how I live my life. I refuse to let their gender norms and their opinions change who I am. And I noticed, I wouldn't be as crazy with my style when I was around them. I would filter myself. My mom asked me to put a Mike's Hard Lemonade in a red Solo cup because there were little kids around while I was of age. It didn't make any sense, especially because I was in a household that had no problem with me drinking. They've taken, being respectful too far, where everything is a problem. Every, disagreement is a problem. And I want to be able to openly say that I don't agree with their opinions, that I wouldn't have chosen to live the same life my aunt lives with a disabled kid, that I am pro-choice in every circumstance, because I think kids that don't want to be that parents that don't want to be parents are worse than lives never making it to viability. Even if you believe, I think, the thousands of kids, hundreds of thousands maybe, I don't know, in foster care are more important than a clump of cells. I want to be honest about those things. And I can't do that with my family. They don't. They will find 500 ways to tell me I'm wrong and then compete with me and debate me on my stance and my morals. I also think, I would trust a felon more than I trust some of the people in the family. There is a very dark history in my family that is scary if you don't actually know it, growing up in it. I don't know. I think it's a little crazy. I think they hide a lot of things behind religion. They're not nationalists, Christian nationalists, like the person is currently dividing the country further, but they definitely go a little further than things should be. And maybe they only do that with family, but I'm not comfortable with it, and I don't want to become comfortable with it. So I guess this is the start of my very limited contact, basically no family life. I never thought I would be here. I genuinely didn't. I never thought that so many of my family members are such hateful human beings. I never thought that I would be in a place where I had to choose between protecting my marriage and my family. I didn't think they were those types of people, but they've proven to me time and time again that they are, in fact, those types of people. And 8 years, if we only count the time my husband has been involved in this conversation, is too long. Doesn't feel like 8 years because I'm not directly involved with them on the day-to-day. But at the same time, I also shouldn't have to beg my family to be included. If it weren't for the fact that other people report to a lot of them on what me and my husband are doing, they would have no idea because they never go out of their way to text me. They never check in on me. While apparently that's also true for my mom, I'm not okay with it. I want the people in my life to actually care what I'm up to. They don't have to be deeply interested, like I said, but at least care. Text me every now and again. Not just when you show up to go to Disney World. Yeah. This is kind of a depressing episode. And I want to say, it doesn't relate to business, but it does. They have controlled the narrative in my brain that I'm not good enough, that I need to be this machine that never breaks down over anything, that I have to just accept mediocre behavior from the people in my life, that I just have to accept that family members are going to talk shit because they're a piece of shit, in my own mother's words. I'm not accepting that stuff anymore. If you're going to talk shit about me, I'm going to say fuck you and move on with my life. I'm done policing who I am to appease them. Because the funny thing is I came out as bi to my husband and the internet, but I never, and a few friends obviously, but I've never actually said that to anyone in my family because I was afraid, and I've never had to address it, for lack of a better way of putting it. I didn't think I would be welcomed in my own family. While some would have definitely been accepting, others wouldn't have. Others would have either pulled the, love the sinner, hate the sin, and then actively, voted against my rights and my existence in some cases. My marriage is biracial. Some people, and my husband is Hispanic. Some people in this current climate don't want that to exist either. I'm a woman in a male-dominated field. And yet, all I get asked about with my family is, when am I having kids? Not, what's a cool thing that has happened at work? Not about my business. When are we having kids? Or here, have my kid to watch. Because you don't have them. So now you get to watch mine. I'm done with that. I raised everybody else's kids in a way, because I am the oldest and I got forced to babysit a lot. I want to do things for me. I want to do things for my marriage. Me and my husband. Build whatever we want to build. And get away from everybody. And if at some point they come back to me, maybe I'll consider it. But I'm done putting in the work myself. I got too much other shit going on. And I'm going to be successful with this business. With or without them. And, when this is going to sound cocky as shit, when I'm doing, 6-7 figures a year and I have a giant house in the middle of nowhere, they're not invited. Even if I have 4 different fucking guest rooms, they're not invited. They didn't help me get there. They don't get to be a part of it when I succeed. Because I know that's what's going to happen. They're going to hear how successful I was or how successful I am and then want to, if I have a property near Disney, stay at my property rather than rent hotels. No, I'd rather take revenue from someone else other than you. because you're going to try to stay in my house for free. You got free wedding photography out of me. I'm done with them taking advantage. I'm not going to be my mother who never tells people to fuck off when they try to stay at her house because they decided to take a trip to Florida. Because the likelihood is if I'm doing 6-7, I'm going to get an investment property near the theme parks so that I have, a rental for, all the local businesses if someone wants to move to Florida and is working there, or it's an Airbnb if that's still a thing by the time I buy that property. And so that I have a place that I can come back to. That's all things I want, but I'm going to do it without them now. They're not going to be part of it. And it's sad, but it's better that than have the constant drama weighing on me. It feels good. And I needed to do this episode to kind of let that go. Because I'm the type of person that, likes to have conversations with people. And I would walk around my house having conversation after conversation with how I would address it with people that might want to know, why I'm not around. And at the end of the day, all of the things that I explained in this episode is why. I'm not even forcing my husband to partake in, and I say force like I could actually do that. I am not even suggesting that my husband will be at family holidays for the rest of this year because he caught on a lot quicker than I did. And I don't want to be around people that don't want me around. So why would I force him to be? It's a new beginning for us in so many ways. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a couple weeks, I think. I'm going to give it some time to figure out what the true new beginning is going to look like. But it's a new beginning for my business. It's a new beginning, and really a new beginning for my business. I'm doing a whole bunch of cool stuff that's going to launch here in a couple weeks. It's a new beginning for me and my husband. We might be familyless now on both sides, really, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. And I really needed to just sit down and talk about, familial relationships when you're building a business and no one understands, and, the current climate in the world and how that impacts everything else. Because I've talked about how, I want to give away as much free things as possible and help people who maybe can't afford my services, but then also help people that can afford my services and actually get paid and, life. And I'm actually going to start shooting my shot with streamers too, which is fun. I probably will never hear back from a lot of them, but you know what? It was worth the shot, So that is today's episode. It was kind of a depressing one, and I'm sorry, but I needed to talk about it. I needed to talk about families. And if you have a similar kind of dynamic where you are the black sheep and, have got your family off, feel free to, talk about it in the comments below. I would love to hear other people's stories of, seeing success after cutting off the toxic family. And be inspired by you, if you will, or, reconnecting after going no contact and them finally appreciating your success. I don't know, whatever your story is, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. But for now, that was not a lot of chaos, but my family's a lot of fuckery. And I hope you're back on Thursday for whatever the new chaos and fuckery is.